Hello, good morning everyone and welcome to today's session. My name is Martin Wanjohi and welcome very much. So today we continue with our sessions of bringing human back to HR, and we are honored today, we are pleased today to have Sharon and Paul from Zimbabwe and Sharon from Eswatini. Unfortunately, so this year, unfortunately, there might be no read downs, but Sharon will tell us whether the read downs will be there. Paul is from Zimbabwe. He will introduce himself. He's the vice president of the IPSD, vice president, membership and education. So today we'll still be going on with our sessions from yesterday about humans and workplace. So we are faced at a situation where humans are at the workplace, and with everything that is going on, what are the challenges? Yesterday we saw that humans were not meant to work, but we have them working. So just welcome everyone for this session. Just some housekeeping. We'd like to know where you're coming from on chat. If you can share that. If you can share on chat where you're joining us from this morning, that would be great. So I'm seeing Mombasa, Kenya, nice, Lagos, Mombasa. Charles, I know you're there. I can see you from Uganda. Welcome very much. May, thank you very much again for joining us. Okay, and as we introduce ourselves, just one thing I'd like to share with everyone for this session. As I share this, just to help us to fully interact properly. Okay, so on this slide that is coming up just now. Okay, so we have the controls for those who are new to Zoom, and also for us to make best use of it. We have the chat, which we are requesting people to use properly. Your mic will be off, but we'll put you on mute. You're able to hear us, but you cannot talk. And today we would also like to invite people who'd like to go live with us. This session is recorded. We'd like to hear your thoughts and your views on the issues that we talk about today. So Paul, who is with us, Paul, maybe you could introduce yourself as we start.
Thank you, Martin. I'm Paul Nyausaru. I'm from Zimbabwe. I'm an HR manager with the Zimbabwe School Examinations Council. It's an examinations body in Zimbabwe. And I also serve on the IPMZ Council as the vice president for membership and education, where we are championing HR issues, and especially issues that are facing the workplace today. I'm glad to be with you to share a few issues regarding this topic, and I'm sure I'll also learn a lot from colleagues from different countries that I see here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Paul. Sharon is here with us, but she was having some technical issues. I think we'll try and find out from her whether she's sorted out, and then she will be joining us. So, so just to go, I'm seeing we have people from Harare. I'm seeing Kiambu here in Nairobi. Seeing someone from Eswatini. So welcome very much. The whole purpose of these sessions is learning together. Our motto at High Performance is always learning. So, and these sessions run every Tuesday and Wednesday, and we'll be having HR professionals from right across the continent, and also professions that support HR. Yesterday we had an industrial psychologist, and we will continue. Next week, we'll have panelists from Zambia and Zimbabwe again, and Botswana, and hopefully Namibia. So Paul, maybe you could start off today's session. Let me just dive deep into it. So we only have an hour, and then we can be able to make the most of this 1 hour.
Thank you, Martin. Let me just try to share my screen from this side. Sorry, let me just go back. Just want to. Okay. That's the first slide that I would like to show is just talking about the topic in general. And briefly, that's Paul Nyausaru. Those are my contact details. And as I've already highlighted, I'm HR manager for ZIMSEC and the vice president of IPMZ, membership and education. Just over 15 years experience in HR management and HR development. I've presented at some local and regional conferences, some to do with assessment, which is our business at ZIMSEC, and some related to HR. I also contributed in a local paper, though I've recently stopped, but I contribute here and there. And the column HR Talk with Paul Nyausaru, I've written quite a number of articles on HR, which are really benefiting most HR professionals today. But now, as we look at this issue, where we have COVID coming in and disrupting the way we do business in companies. This is not a new issue. We've been talking about the automation of the workplace for quite some time, and the issues revolved around the fourth industrial revolution being said to be dominating industry and our lives in general as the years go by. But we've seen that this debate or this topic has been on the cards over the years. I remember last year at our institute we had a conference where the theme was centered on fourth industrial revolution, and a lot of topics touched on in the fourth industrial revolution. We were looking at the automation of the workplace and other processes. This was to psych both employers and employees so that they are ready for that sort of a revolution. But now, come 2020, we see COVID-19 ravaging across the entire world, speeding up the automation of the workplace, which we have been talking about. How has it done so? We have seen lockdowns being implemented all over the world. And what this is meant is disruption of the workplace. Companies have been closed, some total, some partial. The aim to curb the spread of the virus. Working models have been disrupted. Companies now operating with skeletal staff and others opting for the work from home model. continued lockdowns have forced some employers to scale down operations. And we've seen in some cases, employees are losing jobs or just being uncertain as they will be at home and without the chance of going back to work. But now what has been the effect of that workplace disruption? Hello?
Sorry to interrupt. I was just thinking this might be a good time to find out what the audience thinks, yeah? By launching a small poll before we proceed, just to, let's speak what the audience think, and I am launching a poll. So
No, that's fine.
okay, yes. So we have a poll. We wanted to find out people's opinion. The question is: COVID-19 induced workplace automation has given employers an opportunity to restructure the business. So what do you think? Is this true? Is this false? Or to some extent? Okay. Okay, so we have 26 people who have taken the poll out of the 62 we have in the room. So we'll close at 40. Okay, so Paul, let me just share this. Let me end the poll and then share these results, and then it will be helpful as we go on, then we are able to relate to that. Okay, the floor is yours, Paul.
Okay, no, that's fine. I see the results. So 69 saying it's true. To some extent, 33%. Okay, no, that's fine. So we can proceed. Thank you, Martin, for that poll. It's actually showing us what we see as HR professionals. Let me just push this thing over. So I was looking at the effects of workplace disruption in as far as the effects of COVID-19 are on the workplace. We have seen job losses that have come due to company closures. We've also seen that industries have become redundant due to work models being affected. It's no longer work as usual. It's no longer that way of doing business, which industries have been used to. And now, as we have said, some are now adopting that model where people are working from home or from home, or they are working from anywhere, as long as they are productive. We've also seen current human resources becoming a bit irrelevant because the models that are now being used, some are adopting other ways that have not been conventional in terms of doing business. The administration of company codes giving employers some bit of a headache because now some employees are not operating from the plant, but they are operating where they are working on their own. And now how to administer a code is becoming very difficult because we can't really be managing how the employee is working, and also the way they are doing work is now different from that in which the company codes were developed. Measurement of performance is also becoming a challenge. Now trying to measure performance, an employee who is working on their own or is working odd hours, and how to manage that performance, how to measure that performance is actually becoming some bit of a problem. The employees are traumatized. They are not sure of the future. They are not prepared for the future. It just happened overnight. They end up the following day, they're asked not to report for work because it's quite a bit dangerous to be in one place, and also the issue of trying to contain the COVID virus. The effects of workplace disruption, the positive side. Yes, we've seen the workplace being disrupted by the coming up of the coronavirus, which has removed people out of their comfort zone, out of their workplaces. But now we see that the closure of some of these companies, we'll see new forms of industries and businesses emerging. For instance, online way of doing business is actually taking center stage. You look everywhere today in terms of training and development. Yes, we've seen online training in the past, but it has taken different forms. It has taken a different direction. We have seen some training taking place on WhatsApp. We have seen some training taking place on webinars at a larger scale, even though it was happening in the past. We've also seen these other modules being strengthened, especially the flexi working hours, where we now see employees not really being confined in the workplace, but also working from their smartphones, working from any internet connection, and also the establishment of workflow systems that can actually manage employees from anywhere and not merely in the eyes of their supervisor. Other methods consolidated also and taking center stage, like we're talking of these other ones, the working from home and the online consulting and other forms of work methods. They are now beginning to be very visible. They were there in the past, but they are now very, very visible, and they've been adopted to ensure that business will continue without disruption. Then how should the employee react to such changes? There is no other way than to be alive to the new reality, to accept that this is the new normal, and the new normal is here to stay. So from the employee side, if the way they operate, the way they do business has changed, it is on the part of the employee to be alive to that new reality, to say this is now what is there on the ground, and adapt to the new situation. So for them also to be relevant in this new setup and economy, there's really need for employees to develop new skills, to develop new work methods and arrangements. Yes, if they were used to pushing papers, physical papers, and now it is not possible. It's a bit dangerous to be pushing papers in terms of transmitting the virus. They just have to develop, to learn new skills, to be techno-savvy and be operational on their smartphone, on their laptop, if they've got an internet connection. So it is really an opportunity on the employee side for them to develop new skills. I was actually talking to some young men when we went under lockdown for the 21 days. I was saying to them, what will you be holding after 21 days? And some of them were actually saying, no, we're actually doing some online short courses, some online programs to develop ourselves. And this is the direction in which things are going. How about the employers? How should they react? The workplace disruption has got a social and emotional effect on the employees. Just think about it. It was all of a sudden when employees were removed from their employee social setting, and tomorrow they find themselves operating from home or just being at home, locked up because of this issue of containing COVID-19. So as employers, it is our responsibility more than ever to reassure the employees through regular communication, especially from the highest office in the organization, to say they are still important. You know, I remember what my CEO did when we were in the middle of our lockdown. He actually wrote a letter which was delivered to each and every employee inbox, wherein he was outlining the programs for the organization. And one statement that struck me was, I would like to tell you my priority at the moment. And the priority that he mentioned was, your health and safety is my priority. I will do everything I can to make sure that you are safe, whether you are coming here or you are at home. It really gave employees reassurance that they were still in the mind of the CEO. So where there is a genuine need to right size or to downsize, there is need for the employer to put on a human face, at least to know that the employees have got families to feed. The employees have got a life to live even after the downsizing. There is need to engage, there is need to support. Engage in terms of engaging with the workers in a works council and coming up with a win-win situation where there can be an issue of trying to realign business and at least save some jobs. Let it be. And then continuous support of the employee is quite critical. If possible, there's need to accommodate the redundant employees in new work models to ensure swift changeover. If we can actually engage them as consultant or as part-timers somehow, that is proper. At least as employers, we want to show that we care for our employees, but it is the situation that could have led us to make such decisions. For those on work from home model, it is critical for the employer to support with resources that will facilitate them to be productive in their new work setup. The immediate supervisor should also be in constant touch with subordinates through such platforms as Zoom or any other platform. The aim here is to give a message of hope to the employee, to make them feel they are still part and parcel of the organization. Because you can imagine someone was used to working in a pool office where they are interacting with colleagues, and now they find themselves working alone in a room at home. Non-regular communication will really make them very anxious. They are not aware of what is happening. So that two-way communication is critical. There's also need to bring remote employees together regularly through online platforms, is to connect them in their different areas and make sure they see each other, they talk to each other, even though they are talking in remote areas. Just seeing each other will bring them together. And that oneness is what we want as employers. So if it is possible to organize tea or lunch for remote employees on Zoom or other platforms, yes, you might ask, how can that be done? They can prepare their own tea at their own place. But when they are having that tea in different places, they connect on Zoom. They take their tea as they chat and discuss. There's also a need to set achievable goals and provide regular feedback to support the employees so that they remain together. What then should be the HR's response to workplace disruption? Workplace disruption will require HR practitioners to step out of their comfort zone, acquire high business acumen. That means they have to understand the business. As HR practitioners, we need to understand the business. It means we want to move away from the knowledge of our policies, our procedures, and also to learn other business issues. the financial side, the law side, and any other issues that make us very strong in terms of understanding the business. We also need to develop strong critical thinking skills that will help us to manage the new work situation, the new work environment. And good data analysis skills are very critical as we want to continue to put numbers into everything that we do so that it helps us to make good judgment. So we also need to be good business partners and be able to cover so much more on the ground and do a lot of data analysis than we were doing in the past. So given that, as we move towards the automation of the workplace, which in which we are not going back anyway, even though we have this coronavirus subsiding, but I don't see us going back to our old model. We have been catapulted into this direction. We really need to understand how we can work with this workforce, which will now be more technical. So as HR professionals, we want to increase our involvement in terms of understanding how workers are do their work technically and what they need. So we need technical competence on the part of us HR practitioners so that we are better able to manage employees in this automated world. Performance monitoring systems. We also need to look at the way we monitor performance. Introduction of performance dashboards will be the way to go, where we are saying we no longer want to monitor performance of employees that we are working with directly, and we see what time they get to work, are they working, and what have they produced. But we want to move towards a situation in which, as HR, we develop a dashboard which can be adopted by the whole organization, wherein the supervisor is always on the dashboard to monitor progress in terms of work output from subordinates. Never mind where they are working from. Even if they are working from, they are flying to South Africa, the dashboard must be indicating that they are on target in terms of deliverables, which really will be flexible on the part of both sides. A reward system, yes, this needs to be strengthened, be performance or productivity based, where now we are saying they are working remotely. We don't see what time they are going to start and end, but if they met the objectives that we agreed in the first place, if they met their objectives, they are produced, the reward system must actually then come in to reward in such circumstances. Employee engagement, there's really need for regular communication, as I have mentioned earlier, and reassurance on the part of the supervisor or the top men in the organization, so that employees are strengthened and also they really have no fear of what might be coming in the future. Our company policies are really going to change completely. It's sort of an overhaul of these policies to reflect the new realities of the new normal. Actually, to take into account, we have already learned a lot during this workplace disruption, which really will mean will have an effect on the company policies, which will really need to be looked at, amended, and aligned to the new normal. In conclusion, there is no doubt that the workplace has changed in a dramatic fashion, which we never expected. The normal processes and procedures have actually been disrupted, and to some extent, some of them are non-functional. However, what is critical is we see them emerging in another form, which both the employer and the employee need to embrace and accept that the new normal is here and it is here to stay. So It is then a matter of embrace and survive, or deny and perish. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Paul. We have some questions and we'd like to request people to share questions as we proceed. You can type in your question on chat. So Paul, the question we have so far is, in addition of being a techno-savvy, in addition to being techno-savvy, what other skills are essential for an employee during this time?
There's also a need, I'm sure, for employees to embrace or to acquire, as I also indicated, even though it was on the employer side, it will also be on the employee side, critical thinking skills. Because employees now will be operating individually, and they're supposed to be thinkers rather than always referring to the supervisor who will be by their side. So such skills is critical thinking, communication skills, they are critical. In fact, these will actually make them more viable, because they're supposed to be linking with other colleagues in other areas. They're supposed to be coming up with their own decisions as they work, rather than always consulting. So you find that you now want a total person who is able to operate independently, but also operating within specified, within the agreed terms of reference between the employer and the subordinate and the supervisor.
Okay, thank you very much. So I can see Sharon is finally with us. Sharon, welcome.
Morning.
Morning. Quick question. Is the Read Dance on this year?
We are praying it's on. Keep us in our prayers.
Okay. So maybe, Paul, there's a question that is there before we hand over to Sharon. What do you think, just again on that question, do you see folly in HR, just knowing HR?
Sorry?
Do you see a danger in HR being very good only at HR, or the other things HR you believe need to take on, competencies basically?
There is a danger, Martin, because an HR person has to understand the whole business for them to be able to make proper decisions in terms of the staffing and the performance of the organization. Also, an HR person has to go out of the HR cocoon, as it were, and be able to know the numbers in order for them then to be able to assist in the bargaining with employees. The HR person has to know numbers. They have to know some financial numbers. When we're talking of the bottom line, we're talking of the balance sheets and everything, they have to be on top of the game, especially when they are talking to the financial people, because you need to be convinced as an HR person when the finance person is talking about the profit, the loss, the revenue streams and all the like, so that at least we can bring in a better argument in terms of looking after the most important resource, which is the human resource.
Thank you very much, Paul. So Sharon, welcome to us for this session. Just to welcome everybody who's joined in while we are heading or we are proceeding, if you could kindly share on chat which country you're joining us from, that would be great. I'd like to introduce Sharon. Sharon, I know it's a year since we last met in Rwanda, in Kigali,
Yes.
at the IHRM regional conference.
Yes.
And one of the good thing is COVID has brought us again together, to bring a discussion to HR professionals right across the continent. So I'd like to welcome you for this session and have you take over from here. Then we'll take questions at the end of the session.
Thank you very much, Martin, and thank you
Sharon,
for
over to you.
Thank you for having me. Yes, my name is Sharon Maziya. I come from the beautiful kingdom of Eswatini. We are living in unprecedented times, and I think it's I choose to look at it from from the bright side. I think it's vital at this time for HR practitioners to ensure that we keep the company alive and thriving during this period. So it's not all doom. It's a perfect opportunity for us to perfect our skills and to ensure that we do better and improve on what we have been doing in the past. So imagine if we didn't have this crisis. When were you going to sharpen your skills? When were you going to improve on what you already had? When were you going to be exposed to new opportunities? So I think Paul has done a great job in just putting us in the picture of where exactly we are in terms of the situation that we're in. So I don't see a doom and gloom. I see perfect time. Even myself, I mean, we have been in the profession for many, many years, but all of a sudden you are provoked into learning a new skill and bettering yourself. How better can it get? So I'm looking at it from that perspective. But having said that, Martin, we do have to be cognizant that in this changing workplace, yes, we are trying to manage on a day-to-day basis in terms of how we continue to improve on efficiencies and ensure that we increase the revenues and improve the bottom line of our different companies. But what are the things that we can continue to do or the new things we can introduce to improve on productivity? Because productivity remains vital even at this stage. This is merely a new chapter that we have been pushed into going in. We've been talking and singing Fourth Industrial Revolution the whole time. Now we don't have a choice. Now we've got to do it practically. It's no longer theory. And that's the reality on the ground. So all of a sudden, we find ourselves in this situation. We've got to work from home and work remotely, etc. I don't know about the other countries in Africa, but in others, there are still challenges in terms of the network and the infrastructure on the ground. We cannot make an assumption that having this lockdown, people working from home, that actually the employees will be able to work from home. You cannot make the assumption. So I'm coming from a practical point of view, having experienced overnight asking employees to work from home, only to find that it's actually not as straightforward. So that has prompted the company to ensure that we need to ensure that there's we create an enabling environment for the employees to work from home in the first place, which actually didn't exist for others. We made the assumption that people are connected. We made the assumption that it's merely just logging on and connecting from home on your PC, yet others don't have Wi-Fi at home. So you quickly have to think around that and ensure that, even some employees who don't live in town, who are out in the remote areas, you find some way of ensuring that there's connectivity. So I think those are the things that must be kept top of mind. And I'm sure that other organizations found themselves in that we needed to resolve very, very quickly. So yeah, technology, ensuring that you have the right tools in place and ensure that you have a conducive environment at home to push productivity for the workplace. It's not a given. There's effort that is put behind ensuring that that is in place. Policies, we didn't have a policy. You've got to put policies in place to ensure that there's guidelines that guide you. How exactly are you going to be working from home? I think Paul touched on the issue earlier on, issues of performance management. How are you going to measure that? How are you going to track? How are you going to reward? The situation is that because of the nature of what we do, others can work from home the whole day, but others practically need to be going out to see customers, etc. You know, the issue of PPE is not just confined to the workplace. When you go out to check on customers, there's complaints, there's faults, whatever, you've got to ensure that you are properly dressed up. You got the proper PPE, you are observing all of the guidelines that WHO has laid out, etc. Otherwise, customers don't want to interact with you if you don't have all of those in place. So those are the things that as an organization, you've got to keep your eye on. Also, whilst all of this is happening, and we're finding ourselves in this situation, it is important for management, line, leadership in the organization to ensure that we practice positive reinforcement the whole time. I find that it falls away, and we're pushing. We are cautious not to lose any revenue, and we're pushing productivity. Whilst you are pushing that, ensure that you push positivity and actually, as part of your strategy, if you don't have it yet, this is something that you actually need to think about as part of the strategy. Have a happiness agenda. Drive happiness deliberately, because Paul said it earlier, some employees are depressed. They don't know what's happening. They're uncertain. Some have been away for weeks working from, and nobody's been calling on you. Nobody's been checking on you. What is that? What message are you sending out? If I am working from home and no one has actually been touching base with me, is that sending a message that does the company actually need me? Is my job still excellent? You know, all those kind of things. If you're not interacting very often with your team, this is sending a signal that can cause employees to have some kind of anxiety. The issue of communication cannot be overemphasized. Communication remains vital at this point in time. What is happening? Inform employees. Be engaged as an employer. You cannot over-communicate. It's better to over-communicate than not to communicate at all. So once you stop communicating, this will result in disengaged workforce. And once the workforce is disengaged, it's going to drag the company down, and we don't want that. And that leads us to issues of culture. Is the current culture driving productivity? these are the discussions that we should be having in the boardroom, and these are the issues that should be sitting as top priority as we try to manage the new way of doing things. Again, if we're going to be talking culture, this has to be accommodated in our budgets. Training, for instance, we are talking, and Paul touched on this, we are talking of new skills and different way of doing things. This is going to impact your training budget. The training obviously then becomes a crucial part of ensuring that productivity continues. And as I'm about to just wrap up, Martin, it is important that we encourage autonomy. I don't believe in micromanaging. Employees need to learn how to manage themselves. In fact, science has proven that people are strongly motivated by autonomy than financial rewards. So let's keep that in mind and not nag employees and be calling the whole time. Allow them to learn the skill of working away from your constant eye, where you are watching them like a hawk. It's an uncomfortable feeling for leadership, and nobody's going to attest to this, because you as a leader, you want to be seen being in control, etc. Suddenly you don't have these people around you, and nobody's actually feeling you exerting your presence on them. Get used to it. This is the way it's going to be. So let's be concerned about what we want at the end of the day. No micromanagement. Allow people to adjust in the new way of doing things, and ensure that we communicate clear expectations and responsibilities. And lastly, let's not forget issues of reward. Reward remains important. It cultivates a culture of positivity in the organization. So maybe let me stop there and allow some questions, Martin. But in a nutshell, I think it's a lovely time to be working anywhere in the world for any organization. A lovely time to improve on your own skills. If you've been complacent for a while, this is the time to brush up and to learn something new. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Sharon. Quite a number of questions, and nice to see the discussions going on chat. So I'll share the questions, and then when it is directed to someone directly, I'll just call them by name. So Paul, there's a question for you on how do you deal with stress management on employees working remotely?
Yes, as I've mentioned, as supervisors, we need to be constantly in touch with those employees who are working away remotely. And the other strategies that I talked about, where you really need to be bringing together the employees, even though they are in different areas. I've realized that using online platforms such as Zoom, where you put on your video and these employees are seeing each other when they are discussing, and also the sessions that I've talked about, where we're talking about even having tea together when you are operating from different areas. It actually releases the stress. It makes the employees feel as if they are actually in the workplace, even though they are in different areas. Just seeing each other smiling, and also talking about the challenges that they are getting through working at home. They remain united, and that's a better way of managing stress.
Okay, thanks. So there's something I'm seeing on chat, and maybe Sharon, you can respond to it. It seems things are not normal, but people are going back to the normal. that companies are recruiting just the same way they were recruiting and onboarding. When we say that things have changed, has it really changed, or it is in theory? And maybe you can share your practices in what's happening in your country. Yeah.
Yes, Martin. Yes, we have been seeing that, and I especially I'm seeing a lot of it, especially in leadership. The people that are supposed to be giving direction on what is supposed to be happening. So in theory, yes, work from home, but you will still get the call that comes through, which which nullifies the whole point of working from home. I think what it helps from my experience is ensuring that you have the working from home guidelines, and which could also include flexi hours, entrench that and push it vigorously so that people slowly start getting used to it. I've actually seen it not even with meetings, but just recruitment alone, where you have to explain to the team that, listen, COVID is not going away tomorrow. It probably will take a while. So we cannot stop issues like recruitment. We've got to think differently. We can recruit remotely. We're using Zoom, we're using WhatsApp, we're using all sorts of platforms that we now need to start tapping on. This is obviously uncomfortable because that is not normally what we've been doing, but leadership must push this issue of working remotely and start getting used to it. Um, and then slowly it'll start changing. Let's allow the teething, which is happening for now, and accommodate that. It's normal, but really long term, we must be realistic. This is the new way. We're gonna have to adjust. We don't have a choice.
Perfect, thank you. Paul, there's a question on explain what is a PMS dashboard and how does it work specifically for individual performance management?
Thank you, Martin. Let me take that one. A performance management dashboard. This is a dashboard, or that is similar to your car's dashboard, which will always tell you about the condition of your car. The oil, is it okay? The temperature, is it fine? The speed, are you traveling at a good speed? You know, the like. So what we then need to do as HR person is to work with IT to have them design a dashboard that has got all the key areas that you would have agreed with your employees for a particular period. These are put up into a system where the employee is able to be inputting what they have done, the stage at which they are, in terms of the agreed dates between the supervisor and the subordinate. So what it does is, whenever you are inputting your progress, it has got color codes, just similar to a robot. You've got your green, you've got your amber, you've got your red. So the supervisor is just monitoring the dashboard to see on the various aspects in terms of the agreed timelines. If the employee is on course, it's either it's on green. So as a supervisor, I don't even mind about it. I don't even have to talk to my subordinate. They're okay. I'll be a bit worried if they are on amber or red. Maybe on amber, I'm just talking to them to say, is everything okay? Maybe they are going to articulate their challenges, and I'm sure they are going to be on target. If they are on red, then I'm extremely worried. That could be a performance problem, where now I need to be talking to my subordinates, assist them, and see where their challenges are. If they need training, then I can organize. If it is non-performance, then it is dealt with in that area. So in summary, that's what the performance dashboard is. Thank you.
Okay. So I'm trying to get Charles to help us in a question that was here. He'll be coming on shortly. But maybe before that, I'd like to, Sharon, maybe just this other question on, because you mentioned about it, how will you onboard staff recruited? How would onboarding be done virtually? Basically, that's a question narrowed down.
Okay, haven't just gone through the same situation, I think a month ago in April. You need to ensure that your onboarding pack and all the things that you need to be sharing with the incumbent are sent through electronically. All the paperwork, all the policies, everything that they need to be going through, you know, presentations, etc. You send through, they go through those things, ask where necessary, remotely, virtually. And in terms of then doing the visitation or visiting the different employees in the departments, that is also done virtually, where you are able to set up Skype calls and touch base with the different employees from the different regions in the country. So everything has actually been done virtually, but at some point you do meet and observe social distancing. It doesn't mean that you don't meet. It's just that you minimize the people that you're going to be meeting with, especially for a large organization. So let's make use of the platforms that we have, use them for both interviewing and also onboarding. It's perfectly fine. I've seen it work. It is doable.
Just seeing something, someone, they actually successfully onboarded 12 new employees. I don't know if Betty, you'd be willing to come and tell us how you did it practically. You can chat me and with a yes, and then I can arrange to bring you on. I have Charles with me. He'll do voice. Let me just bring him on board. I'm sure if you've been with us in our sessions, you're familiar with Charles Kodost from Kampala. So, Charles, you're with me?
Yes, Charles. Good. Sorry, Martin. Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon. So
Yes,
I saw you in the session, and there was a question that came up, and I thought, let me pull Charles. So someone is asking, would it be right to replace a CEO amidst this crisis?
That's a good question, Martin. My response is that any time is a good time to replace a CEO. If you read this book, The 90-Minute Manager, our CEOs are not as exposed to, you know, to the threat of change in the environment as a football coach is. It's actually believed the football coach has, you know, in one season alone, has over 300 matches. And in each of those matches, a decision could be taken to fire the coach. In the business world, we have 4 board meetings a year to determine whether a CEO is performing. So in a fluid environment, and with strategy being so dynamic, any time could be a time for change in the organization.
Okay, thank you very much, Charles, and we appreciate. Paul, maybe another quick, Paul, something that just came up, that in this, due to the disruption brought about by COVID-19, it means an opportunity for reskilling human capital. If so, how should one go about it?
In terms of reskilling, I think what is critical for now, we are at a stage where we are also studying the situation. So in terms of reskilling, I think we need to be looking at the new skills that are coming up, that are being brought up because of this disruption of the workplace. Once we identify the skills, then what we need to do is to focus on those skills and see how best we can then impart them in identified individual employees. We know our individuals, employees' skills and strengths, and we can build on that to say, let's first of all identify the new skills that they've been brought up by the new normal that we are now operating in. Once we identify them, then as an organization or as a company, we now need to invest in terms of reskilling our employees. And now, as we're saying, the world has been opened up. We can staff develop our employees in those critical skills using any platform to access the training from anywhere on any part of the world. So I think what is critical is for us to first of all identify the new skills which address the new normal. Then we can address them as they come, identifying the right skills for the right employees.
Okay, perfect. So Sharon, again, the same question. I might have made an error reading. What if we replace the reskilling with rescaling? How do we go about rescaling? So if I might put the question again, in the disruption brought about by COVID-19, it means it's an opportunity for rescaling human capital. If so, how should one go about it?
Yes, I agree. Unfortunately, that's the reality. We cannot avoid rescaling, and if we want to go that route, it needs to fit in. It come from the strategy. It cannot just come from nowhere, which means a strategy is a live document. It needs to be able to be adjusted as and when necessary, so that it's given the proper attention and the resources that will be needed to go that direction. So yes, I agree. It's an opportunity for us to also rescale and see how we can go around doing that. Include it in the strategy, and show that we get the proper resourcing so that we drive the organization in the right direction to give us the productivity we need.
Okay. So Sharon, as we proceed, as we go on, I'd like, and also Paula, I've seen you've shared your LinkedIn for people to be able to follow you. Sharon, you will share with me, and then I know people would want to pick up a few things here and there. Now, we are about 4 minutes past our due time. I'm seeing a few questions. I'd like to respond to one, combining with another. So someone asking about the impact of online learning. Now, online learning is just the delivery method of the learning. Same method, learning that would have been delivered as it were face-to-face. Just to share this, someone asked me, was worried that the productivity of employees will go down when they're not working from home, from the office. And I asked them, why will the productivity go down? Because they don't have the right tools, or because you're not seeing them working? And this is the same of thing. You can deliver the same kind of learning online. It's only that you're delivering it online. So it goes into how is that learning designed? How are you assessing that it is giving you the outcome that you require? There was someone asking about KPIs. Now, KPIs are unique to each organization, and you cannot pick the what we'd call custom KPI and decide to run with any of those. You need to see what is in your space. What do you require as an organization? So whichever question is not answered on this, we will follow it up in coming emails. I saw a question about availing all sessions that we have had. I think we have had now a total of 10 sessions. Two things are going to happen. We will provide all of those, hopefully by the end of the week, Friday. And next week, we will move to a new platform where replays will be available immediately after the session. So we will be sharing all that, those details. So Paul, last word. Paul?
Hello.
Hello, parting shot from you.
Okay, no, thank you very much. All I need to say, fellow practitioners, is the new normal is here to stay, and it is our role as HR to drive the adoption and acceptance of the new normal. Remember, we are the CEO's chief advisors, and for automation to take place successfully, it rests with us HR practitioners. As we have said, we need to move out of our comfort zone. We also be business. People speak the business language. It is very critical. We're able to lead in the front and also make sure that this transition is a success. Thank you.
Okay. Sharon?
Thank you.
Last words from you.
Thank you, Martin. I think my last words, it's important for us to ensure that we enable the environment and ensure that it's conducive to give us these results as we transition into the new way of doing things. Ensure that it is not stifling and people remain happy and look forward to still working for our organizations.
Okay. Just before I let you guys go, something has been in my mind. Is bringing all these people together. Helps people unite is language. So, Paul, starting with you, how do you greet in your local language on the streets in your language?
Or in our native language, we say "Makadi ni henyu."
Okay, Sharon, same thing. We will be learning. We have to know a number of African countries.
Sanibonani.
Sorry, again?
Sanibonani.
Sanibonani. I think that one was easier than Paul. Paul, maybe just so that we learn something, at least even from the Zoom sessions.
Sorry, Martin?
I was saying, if you could just run that again, how you greet in Zimbabwe.
Or in Zimbabwe. We just say Makadini. If you want to shorten it, Makadini.
Makadini. Perfect. So before we close, or as we are closing, I'd like to share something, a small video with us for everyone. Just share my screen. And immediately after that, we shall close the session and we shall be sharing details of our next week's sessions. So this is, we can all listen to this.
As much of the world continues on in isolation, people working from home, they're trying to figure out things to do with their family, things to figure out how to find. I think has a lot of teachers been going online and trying to kind of help out their students and families. This teacher in particular, music teacher, I find like phenomenal. Not only did she pick up an instrument and decide for her students express joy, but she wrote a song and inspiration. She will share what she's going through and how it feels while she's in isolation. Okay, so something that's I've been and one of the best ways I can pass the whole vision to and then is to write a song. So I wrote a song.
Thank you everyone for joining us today. Thank you everyone for joining us today. I hope everyone is knowing like that about this discussion. We'd like to invite you to join us next week. We will be emailing details of where you can access all the sessions and also how you can join in next week's session. Someone is asking if we can add the video to the resource. If you go to YouTube and search teacher's song, let me just type it in here. It will help make your day. Teacher's song. It will help make you on YouTube. You'll be able to see that at your own comfort. Thank you everyone for joining us, and join us again next week, Tuesday and Wednesday, and we will have panelists from Zambia and Zimbabwe again. Thank you very much, and everybody have a lovely day and a lovely week. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Martin.
Bye.
Bye.